Conspiracy. Conspiracy theory. Why are those words seldom mentioned by preachers? Why are those words often mocked or avoided or scorned? Why the fear involved with the word conspiracy? Conspiracy, I see, is a hot button word like racism, like heretic. These three words are often used to stop the discussion. And the one who usually uses this charge thinks that they win the discussion if they throw out, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," or "You're racist," or "You're a heretic in the Christian world. You're a heretic." And they think that that's going to, and it usually does, stop the discussion. You know, the reason why the leftist, the woke, the canceled culture, and these people think America stinks, in actuality, America's not a perfect nation, as no nations are, because they're filled with imperfect people. But I would like the woke people, the canceled culture, the BLM, to try their protest against China as they protest in America. But you know really why America stinks to them? And this is most likely the reason why it stinks is because they're not looking in the right places. But often the idea of race. Here's an example of 3 glasses of water, and you have 3 different viewpoints. One viewpoint might say that the water's half full, the glass is half full. The other one might say the glass is half empty. But the small brain individual, the one that their brain rolled out their ear, would say the water's racist. And then they think that they win the discussion. We had an actor-in-chief. We have an actor-in-chief who claims, or he was in the search for a black woman to fill in the Supreme Court vacancy. But when that woman was asked, "What is a woman?" she couldn't answer the question. What a laughable idea. If they were to ask her what black meant, they probably couldn't have answered that question. But why is it that conspiracies or conspiracy theories, or even the phrase conspiracy theory, why not a conspiracy fact? Why not that? Well, the reason why is the Central Intelligence Agency, and this reads, the conspiracy theory is a term that strikes fear and anxiety in the hearts of most every public figure, particularly journalists and academics. Since the 1960s, the label has been a disciplinary device that has been overwhelmingly effective in defining certain events as off limits to inquire or debate, like the JFK shootings or UFOs. Especially in the United States, raising legitimate questions about dubious official narratives destined to inform public opinion and thereby public policy is a major thought crime that must be categorized from the public psyche at all cost. CIA document 1035-960 played a definitive role in making the conspiracy theory term a weapon to be wielded almost any individual or group calling the government's increasingly clandestine, increasingly calling the government's increasingly clandestine programs and activities into question. Former CIA Director William Casey under Ronald Reagan said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." Denzel Washington was asked one time about reading newspapers, and he basically said that if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. But if you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. So true. After what I do in life as far as seeking the truth in all areas of life, if the Lord gives me a witness or two about a topic or an issue, if I get a second witness, I might look into it. But if I get a third witness, it's almost like the Lord saying, "Hey, I want you to look at this." Now, I'll look at it, study it, possibly be persuaded of it, and then I'll analyze it and put it in a certain category. Okay? Because you want to major on the major and minors on the minors, because that's just good common sense. In Hebrews 13, verse 9, it says, "Be not carried about with diverse and strange doctrines, for it is a good thing that the heart be established with grace, not with meats, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein." So if I come across a strange doctrine or a conspiracy, and I am fully persuaded of it, well, you don't want to be carried away with it. Okay? You want your heart to be established with grace, but don't you know, what if people who are victims of these conspiracies or selective conspiracies, what if these victims come to you for help? Are you going to roll your eyes when they talk about a small group of people who have some dastardly intentions, criminal intentions? Are you going to roll your eyes and then just encourage them to run away? Are you going to avoid them like the plague? Preacher man, are you going to ignore the topic and not warn your people about conspiracies that could affect them? The larger the island of knowledge, the longer the shoreline of wonder. There's nothing wrong about standing on the shoreline and wondering what else is out there. Now, the word conspiracy, defined in the Black's Law Dictionary. And so this is 1951, 4th edition. I like the 4th edition because it gives the better, more faithful definitions in the earlier American history. So let's define it. In criminal law, according to the Black's Law Dictionary, a combination or confederacy between two or more persons formed for the purpose of committing, by their joint effort, some unlawful or criminal act, or some act which is innocent in itself but becomes unlawful when done by the concerted action of the conspirators, or for the purpose of using criminal or unlawful means to the commission of an act not in itself unlawful. Simplistically, a conspiracy is two or more people who are teaming together to commit a criminal act, or at least to commit an act in a criminal method. Here's a book entitled Proofs of a Conspiracy by John Robertson. 1798. Oh, were there conspiracies back then? Most certainly. There are conspiracies in all ages, in all times. I mean, you don't think that there are two or more people conspiring to commit a criminal act in virtually every area of life? Do you think 9/11 just happened accidentally? Do you think that somebody from a foreign country actually did that? Or was some people conspiring inside? Or were some people in the political world conspiring or allowing the conspiracy to take place? It's interesting to me that Samuel Morse, of the Morse Code, wrote 2 books warning Americans about the conspiracy of the Jesuits. But it didn't seem like anybody heeded his warnings. So let's take that definition from Black's Law Dictionary and let's go to the Bible and see about the word conspiracy or conspired or conspirators. And we discover that it occurs 30 times throughout the Bible. 30. I mean, that's more than church membership, tithing, and baptism put together. And in fact, it outnumbers them probably 10 times more. I mean, why does your preacher talk about tithing so much? Tithing this, tithing. When Paul didn't write about it to the church at all. I know why. Does he desire people to obey the scriptures? Or does he get some financial benefit out of people complying with that idea? Okay, conspired. The first time it shows up is in Genesis 37, verse 18. That's when Joseph's brothers, 10 of them, conspired against him to slay him. So that's 2 or more people agreeing together to commit a crime, in this case, murder. Now, we have history to reveal that the Lord thwarted their efforts totally, but they conspired and sold them into slavery. The next occurrence is found in 1 Samuel 22, 2 times, and this is when King Saul, the first king of Israel, who turned into a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath, and he was concerned that people were conspiring against him. And of course, that's often the case in the political world. That's what Stalin was concerned of. I mean, if you murder so many people, obviously somebody's want to take you out. And so Mr. Saul in the Old Testament started off good but ended up bad. And there's a Saul in the New Testament started off bad and ended up good. So Saul was worried about a conspiracy against him. And then in 2 Samuel, this is when Absalom conspired against David to take his kingdom. And Ahithophel, the grandfather of Bathsheba, was one of the conspirators, because Ahithophel held his bitterness against David in the affair with Bathsheba and the murder of Uriah. And then many other times of conspiracy throughout the kings, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. It's nothing but political conspiracies back and forth as politicians jockey for positions. And then they, get a politician in a very suggestive way when he's drinking at some political fundraiser, political party, and then they keep him blackmailed. And this is how the kingdom turns. And then Nehemiah had to deal with a conspiracy in Nehemiah 4 when they were trying to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. But I want to take a couple minutes here, a few minutes, and look at Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a conspiracy theorist. In Jeremiah 11, verse 9, but I want to read Jeremiah 9:11 first. It's an interesting idea, Jeremiah 9:11. I think that number is kind of significant in American history. And I would dare say that if you do a little research in 9/11, you might discover there was an inside conspiracy involved with that. Jeremiah 9:11, I will make Jerusalem heaps and a den of dragons. I will make the cities of Judah desolate without an inhabitant. Ooh, wow, sounds like a little bit of destruction that took place. Genesis 9:11, I don't know if you've ever looked at that one before. I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. Both 9/11s deal with destruction of something. But back in Jeremiah 11, verse 9, remember that Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel, okay, chronologically that's how they're laid out in the scriptures, but as far as Babylon conquering Judah, it went backwards from Daniel, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah. Daniel was taken captive to Babylon on the first military campaign, and Ezekiel was taken on the second military campaign. And then Jeremiah stayed in Jerusalem, and he warned about a conspiracy. And he even publicly protested about it. Jeremiah 11, verse 9. And remember when Jesus asked the apostles, whom do men say that I am? Jeremiah, I think, was one of the characters that was mentioned. If not, he's one of the prophets. And the Lord said unto me, oh, so the Lord recognizes that often there are two or more people conspiring to commit a crime. The Lord said unto me, a conspiracy is found among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And then the Lord told Jeremiah previously up here in verse 6, the Lord said unto me, proclaim all these words in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, saying, hear ye the words of this covenant and do them. For I earnestly protested unto your fathers in the day that I brought them up out of the land of Egypt unto this day, rising early and protesting, obey my voice. He's protesting of the disobedience of the people in Judah. And the Lord said, they are conspiring. There's a conspiracy found. That one, most likely, there would be sort of kind of in a public arena or in a political arena. In the Ezekiel 22 passage, Ezekiel had a lot of strange stuff going on, didn't he? Ezekiel 22, verse 23 says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto her, thou art the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. The conspiracy of the prophets. And in verse 26, it's in the priest. And in verse 27, it's in the princes, the politicians. In the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey to shed blood, to destroy souls, and to get dishonest gain. And was it not the Lord, Jesus, who warned in Matthew 7, verse 15, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. 30 times conspiracy and its derivatives is found in the Bible. Fascinating. Just amazing to me. Years ago, an actor, a producer named Mel Gibson, produced a movie titled Conspiracy Theory. I happened to watch that movie, and you can judge me for that, but I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm like, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that. I believe that. A few of my nieces and nephews happened to watch that movie, and they said, that guy sounds like Uncle Dave. That's kind of funny. But why is it that preachers don't warn their people about these? Now, these conspiracies, I'm going to probably run through several of them, make this a series of certain conspiracies that I have been observant of since the 1980s. I mean, it goes way back. I've been teaching about the conspiracy of the banking industry and the fiat industry, the fiat currency, since the 1980s, or even the 1990s. I remember back in the 80s being observant of the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and the skull and bones that George Bush and John Kerry was a part of. I mean, there are official conspiracies that are really very easy to see, like the Jesuits. Samuel Morse warned about the Jesuits in the 1840s, like the Bilderbergers or the Rothschilds or the Club of Rome. These are pretty easy to understand because a lot of these conspiracies are required to publish their intentions. The Davos Agenda, Agenda 2030. You see, all these are more political or financial in nature. And these conspiracies, like at 9/11, will perform a false flag operation. I mean, approved of, financed, and organized by governing agencies, politicians. False flag operations, many of your mass shootings throughout the last few years, some of them are fake. Some of them have actors portraying what's not happening. Some of them are staged. Some of them are promoted or instigated by federal agents. It's like the priest at the crucifixion. The chief priest instigated the people to cry, "Crucify them, crucify them." Some of these official conspiracies are pretty obvious right in front of you, are dark, very dark in nature. Some of them are trying to maintain an economic advantage. You know, to seek an economic advantage is legitimate, but if it's done in a criminal way, then that makes it a conspiracy. Some of them are unofficial conspiracies, like the Alexandrian cult. That would be more like what Ezekiel warned about. And then Jeremiah warned more about the official conspiracy. The unofficial conspiracies would be ones in the industry of the seminaries and Christian colleges, the Alexandrian cult, where they don't come right out and say something about it, but yet they will secretly and they will unite together against the King James Bible. Some of these are usually religious or educational in nature. Some of them are in the entertainment industry, in Hollywood, behind the scenes, doing wicked, ungodly things. And basically, all I'm trying to get across, to get you to think about something, is that obviously, I mean, it's a no-brainer that two or more people virtually in every industry today, 6,000 years from Adam, you're going to find two or more parties conspiring get together to either commit a crime or to seek to get an advantage over someone else in a criminal behavior. So in these videos about conspiracies, I may hit on some that are very open and blatant. And then I may hit on some that you've probably never heard of or never considered. Again, the purpose is in a matter of strange doctrines. Okay, some of these will be very, very strange to people. We want to have our hearts to be exercised with grace. But yet, you know, you just might have people who are victims of some of these conspiracies, if not all of them, cross your path. And I have had that. I mean, me personally, I was a very sheltered child growing up. I was given a very wonderful upbringing. I was a very shy child, very quiet, an introvert. And so, you know, I never drank anything stronger than buttermilk. And probably never even drank buttermilk. But the Lord has had ex-Satanists, people who have suffered from MK Ultra, people who have been abused, cross our path narcissists, sociopaths, okay, who have crossed our paths, and the Lord has aided us to be able to help them. And so this is not an exaltation of sensationalism. This is just trying to be forewarned. And if you are forewarned, you can be forearmed in either the literal sense or in the figurative sense. And then you people aren't shocked when the next pandemic shows up. And that is an obvious example of a conspiracy that manifested itself, and people are dying because they weren't alert to the conspiracy that was written before time, years in advance. And it's an amazing thing how people are dying today because of the conspiracies that they're not alert to. So, travel along with me. We might just go down a rabbit hole. We might see Alice in Wonderland somewhere down there. But we also might discover the truth. And so I hope that you'll pray through these things with me, that the Lord would direct me to hit on certain topics that people might be forewarned so that they can be forearmed.